Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to Richmond International Raceway as it plays host to the third race of the second season of the G-Force Vintage Cup Series, getting ready for 175 laps at this short track. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Anthony McCurry, and Anthony, home sweet home for you here tonight.
Yeah, just a little bit up the road from where we were last week, and I didn't have to go very far to get here, so it's always fun to be able to walk outside and just take a leisurely stroll to the racetrack every now and again.
Now, a lot of stuff happening last week at Rockingham. A lot of storylines carrying over here into Richmond. And of course, one of them has to be Blaine Atkin picking up the victory last week and carrying that momentum into a race here this season that he won last year.
Yeah, and he has a pretty good advantage going into this race. He started on the inside line back on the second row. He knows how to get it done here. He got it done last week, but he's got a target on his back. Kyle Johnson was spun going down to receive, I think it was 2 laps to go at the time, and then they had to do a green-white checkered. So Blaine Atkin and Kyle Johnson, he's got to look out for him because that 88 might have something to say after what happened last week.
We had a couple of things take place last week, and going to be interesting to see if it carries over into tonight's event as Ryan Lutz going to be starting on the pole position. Now, Ryan Lutz is making his second start on the year. He took part in the season opener at Daytona as well, but had the opportunity to observe Ryan Lutz in other series, and he is one tough cat to get around when it comes to good starting track position at a short track. So we could have ourselves quite a battle here tonight at Richmond between that 36 and 44.
Absolutely. Don't count out that 07 starting out on the outside line of the front row. He's got some speed. He showed a lot of speed in qualifying, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see Harrelson have a lot of long race pace. We saw him have quite a bit of a run last week. He was able to really get his long run car set in, but he also, coming into this race, has a bit of a chip on his shoulder because him and Bo Brady had a bit of a tangle last week. Now, the benefit for him is that Bo Brady starting quite a ways back as compared to him, but we'll have to see if Harrelson can take it to these front two. Certainly Atkin, because Atkin and Harrelson was around each other quite a bit last week.
Well, it's a short track, and whether it be battling for position or maybe one driver going around another as a lap machine, some way, somehow, in this 175 lapper, they're going to find each other. But it's going to be Ryan Lutz and Seth Harrelson bringing us down to the green, and we are underway here tonight at Richmond International. Biggest thing that we saw in practice, Anthony, was drivers trying to get the power down, especially off of turn 2 and the back end just coming around. Hopefully a little bit was able to be learned in terms of throttle control last week at Rockingham, but obviously in terms of banking and in terms of the angle of the corners here, entirely different.
Much different. The whole track is basically at an angle, and you're basically making a continuous left-hand turn coming into turn 3 and then going out all the way around to turn 2. The front stretch is one continuous D-shaped oval. The back straightaway is about the only time you really have a breather and been able to get going in a straight line, but throttle control is going to be important, especially coming out of turn 2 where the track levels off from going off the banking, which there isn't much here when compared to other tracks we're going to later on in the season. There's a little bit of a big elevation change if you're coming from the outside line down onto the back straightaway. So throttle control is an absolute premium tonight. There's already a lap car. Speaking of the 20, that's Bo Brady that finds himself into early trouble.
He actually started from pit road, it looks like, did the 20 cars. So Brady is currently scored on the tail end of the lead lap and going to try and keep Ryan Lutz in his rearview mirror. Lutz going to have none of it. He wants to get around that 20 because he knows Blaine Atkin is right there to put the pressure on him for the race lead.
Absolutely, and having a lap car this early in the race, normally you try to find your bearings to see what your car can do, but now you're already having to battle someone who is just as fast as you are, but not for position. Looks like that Brady's going to be put a lap down now. Does he have a challenge back? He's in a free pass spot. I don't think it wouldn't benefit him to challenge right now. It looks like he's just going to fall in line, but that is good news for Lutz because now he's got a lap machine between himself and Atkin. That's up to speed with everybody else.
And we're going to have to see if Blaine Atkin going to find any sense of urgency to try and get around that 20 machine, or is he just going to settle in and ride? Because we've kind of talked about this week after week at the end of last season and into this season about a lot of the tracks they go to are tire killers, and Richmond no exception. These drivers only have 5 sets of tires at their disposal here tonight, so for Blaine Atkin, is it just try and ride for the moment in the second spot, preserve those good years, and hope the 36 uses up his stuff while battling with the lap machine of Bo Brady?
If I were Atkin, I would do exactly that. Just conserve your tires, because he was one of the drivers last week that was having a lot of problems with tires. Oh, he slaps the outside wall coming out of turn 4. That's going to open the door for Whitendorf to go to the inside. Can he get the pass done? Side by side through turn 1. 33 on the inside. Makes the pass through turn 2. New second place, and I don't know how much damage that 44 is going to have, but he hit the wall very hard.
And you see right there, because of his little mishap, Ryan Lutz was more than happy to allow Bo Brady to go back around and get his lap, because there actually is about 5-6 car lengths from Lutz back to that second place battle between Whitendorf and Atkin. I think we had a driver in trouble off of turn 4. The 14 of Cooper Johnson was way wide through that corner, as he's going to drop outside of the top 10 potentially here, losing spots to both James Roth and Gerald Campbell, that being our Daytona winner, Cooper Johnson. And one thing we haven't talked about yet coming into this race are the point stands, and they're still close. Only 2 races under their belts so far here, and right now it's Blaine Atkin with his win last week, 25 points over John Whitendorf, and only 30 points over Cooper Johnson. Christopher Morse right there as well, about, I believe it's 34 points back, so it's still really close right now as far as the championship's concerned, but as I stated, a long way still to go in the season.
Absolutely. This is only race 3 out of quite a few left to go. We're going all the way into August, I believe, with this series, so still a lot of time for a lot of these drivers to make up positions, and Cooper Johnson is going the wrong direction if he wants to be doing that. He has fallen all the way back now to 14th, does he find himself. Kyle Johnson, we were talking about him, is right in front of him. Not doing too well either, running around in the 13th position, trying to make up some ground. Actually, the 02 of Hounchow in front of him almost had a bit of a spin. Got a little bit loose coming out of turn 4. All these drivers running really close together. The leaders are kind of getting away, though, and I think a lot of these drivers maybe just trying to figure out what their car can do, trying to ride around and see what they've got, because some of these drivers we saw at the front of the field a lot during Rockingham. Certainly Kyle Johnson was leading at one point. Jake Hounchow was doing really well, and Cooper Johnson had a pretty good day as well. So a lot of these drivers translating over to the short track. We went to a little over a mile long track last week, now at a 3/4 mile track. It seems that there's a big difference between drivers' abilities and car setup when we get to different types of racetracks for these drivers.
Great battling from 10th place on back. We saw Gerald Campbell pick up the 9th position, or make that the 8th position from debuting driver Michael Blanton in the 24, making his series debut, and right now holding down a top 10 position. Another driver that's making his debut here tonight, right now last car on the lead lap in the 21st position, that being the 13 of Bobby Germain. So in terms of, we've seen drivers, they made their debuts back at Daytona, rolling over from the Grand National Series. Then we saw a couple of drivers make their debuts last week at Rockingham. Where in terms of difficulty do you think it would be for a driver to make their debut here at this short track?
It's certainly easier than a lot of other short tracks. I think that this is probably one of the easier short tracks. If you were going to make your debut at one, then this would be it. It's nice and wide. You got some banking to work with. The speeds never really get so fast that it makes it intimidating. Certainly not like a Bristol where it's lap after lap, a half mile running around the track at well over 130 miles an hour at some point in close proximity to everybody with a very thin track. This place, you can afford to make a little mistake and get away with it. So making your debut at a short track is always scary. And I don't think that there's any of these rookies that are making their debut tonight. I don't think any of them are comfortable at the moment. There's certainly a lot of them that have a lot of things that they're worried about. One driver that's got something to worry about is the leader, because him and Brady are in a heated battle right now. I'm not sure what Brady's agenda is, but he is not willing to stay behind the leader. Here comes Atkin with a challenge for the lead.
I'll tell you what, if that 20 car ever gets back in the lead lap and can march his way to the front, he's got himself in line to be a contender here. No doubt about that. He has been all over the back bumper of Ryan Lutz, moving him out of the way to get back to the point, and he's going to make contact with Blaine Atkin. They managed to save it, but that 20 is being more of a hindrance to these top two than anything else.
Absolutely. That was really close for Atkin. Almost. Whoa! There was another bobble by Atkin, I think. I don't know if that was retaliation from the 20 or not, but Atkin certainly had something happen. There's the 13 going down the pit road. Whoa!
Those barrels, they come up on you in a hurry.
Man, Germain almost knocked into the barrels. That would have been unfortunate. I don't know if he was trying to go to pit road or not, but something is amiss on the 13. He's going very slow at the moment.
I think he was trying to get out of the way of the race leaders, but Jeff Green getting the wall back there off turn 2, but getting onto pit road here, it's a very, very tight corner to get around. Not a whole lot of runoff down there between pit road entry and the apron of turn 4, so that was definitely a close call for the 13 machine. And in terms of Bo Brady, I mean, that picked him up a position getting around the 13 car, moving him up to 21st. If he can at least stay with this lead pack, he could probably, when Ryan Lutz and company catch up to the tail of the field, pick up positions on the track that way. And it looks like he has finally kind of resolved himself to riding back behind Blaine Atkin. We'll see if John Whitendorf, Hank Steinmiller, as well as Seth Harrelson, if they'll make an attempt to get around this 20 car, who appears to be just as fast as the race leaders.
And that's a benefit for him at this point. Whoa, Atkin again with a bobble coming out of 2, but that's a benefit for him as he goes way deep to the inside of the racetrack and forces his way around the 44. I don't know if that's a smart idea, because now Atkin has fallen back to 4th place. Now you've got Whitendorf and Hank Steinmiller now coming to the inside of Brady. Not sure what Brady's trying to do. I know he wants to get back on the lead lap just so there's the yellow come out, but he's in a free pass spot. You don't have to fight right now, and I don't know what that was about, really.
I don't have an issue with a lap machine fighting to try and get back on the lead lap, but you certainly don't dive bomb a driver that's up inside of the top 3.
Certainly not. That could have taken out himself and Atkin in that exchange. It's a little too early in the race to be making those kind of moves as well. It's only 24 laps in of 175. The laps are going by quick, but not so fast that you have to make those kind of moves now. We're not even 25% way through the race, so Brady definitely not comfortable riding where he's at right now. Although, if yellow comes out, again, he does get that free pass, but still a sense of urgency on the 20 team. It's almost like they know something that we don't. But those tires, we talked about tires, you'd think you want to conserve those.
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing I'm thinking of here as well, I mean, a lot of these guys he's making contact with are running up inside of the top 5. Let's say that near the closing stages of this race, Bo Brady is up there with those guys. The contact he's making now could lead to them then retaliating with contact late in the race for what could potentially be a race win. Not sure you want to be making enemies at a short track this early on.
No, not at all. They will remember it, and then it will come back to haunt you just when you least expect it. But now, as you can see, there's a bit of a result from that incident. Brady's actually falling back. He's now coming in the clutches of Christopher Morse, who has a charge to prove from last week. Last week, he fell down a lap after the pit stops happened, and then there was a caution between the leaders that caused only 3 cars to be on the lead lap after that. Then he got back on the lead lap. That was a whole fiasco that these drivers had to figure out, and it was quite astonishing to see that Morse actually got back on the lead lap and was able to get back within contention to win the race. But now, running very comfortably right now in the 5th place position, has a fast car. I bet that 3 car might charge his way to the front. We usually see him start at the back, but he started within the top 10, I believe, so a little interesting to see him up to the front this early on in the race.
It's a question of when we're going to see him in victory lane. Of course, the defending champion of the series, and right within striking distance, 24, actually make that correction, 34 points out of the points lead coming into tonight, as we had another car down there on the apron. Was that Harrelson in the 07? No, it was Morse in the 3. He might have had a bit of an issue there off of turn 4, as he was way low on the front straightaway. It might have either been that, or he may have gone down there to avoid Seth Harrelson, who may have gotten up into the wall off the final corner.
I think he might have gotten loose, because I was watching that group of cars, and I think he just kind of tracked to the inside of the racetrack, but good save nonetheless. We were talking about how the getting the power down was going to be the biggest talk of the town, and we say it, we said it the last 2 weeks, but getting the power down with these cars is really hard to do, especially when you don't have much in the way of aerodynamics to work with. Oh, there's a bit of a stack up between Brady, Morse, and Campbell. That is really tight traffic. That's like rush hour on 95.
And the thing that I'm thinking here too, with you talking about the ability to get the power down, it's going to get worse and worse as the run goes on, because these drivers here tonight have only a 70% fuel load, and we've been told that when that tank starts emptying, the back end of the car gets lighter, and that's going to lead to more and more wheel spin when you try and get back to the throttle.
Indeed. We saw it a lot last week at Rockingham, where especially coming out of turn 2 and coming out of turn 4, especially maybe even going down to turn 3 a few times that we saw it, where cars would get a little unhappy and try to snap around on a lot of drivers. We saw a lot of crashes come out of turn 2 where they would just track down onto the inside wall. A lot of them were able to save it, but some of them did not save it, unfortunately. And it didn't always bring out a yellow, but here, so far, caution-free, knock on wood. But these drivers are doing a great job of minding each other's distance on the racetrack, not really running over each other. We've seen them get really close to each other and have a couple of contact moments, but for the most part, everyone's being very polite with their race cars at the moment.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. A lot of times we'll observe what's going on in practice. We'll see a lot of drivers struggling, spinning off of the corners, and we think, well, we're probably going to see quite a number of yellows in the race. We've almost gone the first 35 laps clean and green. I think a big reason why we end up seeing a lot of issues under the practice session, drivers trying to get themselves geared up for Q, they're going to push that car to the limits. They're going to try and get back to the throttle sooner. They're going to end up spinning out, and as a result, now they've got themselves into long race pace mode, and so they're able to keep the car underneath them at least momentarily, and be able to not necessarily have the issues we saw them have earlier on in the practice session.
Yeah, and practice is, like you said, it's a place where they try to test out what they can get away with, so that in the race you don't have to find out the hard way. And now we are definitely seeing the product of them figuring out what the hard way was and settling into it. Jeff Green, I want to touch on him. He has made quite a charge up through the field, now going for 6th place. Make that 7th place over Seth Harrelson, has made the position. Now he's going to set his sights on Christopher Morse. That 2 machine is on a flyer at the moment.
And of course, Jeff Green, a former short track winner back in the Grand National Series at Bristol Motor Speedway. Did not see him take part in last week's event at Rockingham. He did take part in Daytona as well, so making his 2nd start on the season. And Jeff Green, despite the fact that he did not race last week, he actually is still running somewhat decently, 17th in points, and right now inside of the top 10, making his way around the 13th, the lap machine of Bobby Germain.
Yeah, that 2 car has got some speed under that machine, and Bobby Germain almost made himself a moving roadblock, but everyone was able to stop in enough time to get around the 13 machine. Ryan Lutz has absolutely checked out. He's almost 3 seconds ahead of Blaine Atkin and continuing to extend his lead. I've seen it go up and up over the last few laps. He could cruise right now, save some tires. He's good.
Oh, we got a wreck, I think. Something happened. Caution is out. It's Christopher Morse. It was in the vicinity of Harrelson and Jeff Green, and the 3 car up in turn 4 is the one that's going to go around. You've also got the lap machine of Blaine Atkin in the vicinity as well.
Bro Brady, that was in the 20 machine.
Yes.
Yeah, he was spun around, pushed up against the outside wall as well, so you might think that this had something to do with Bo Brady trying to force an issue, or maybe it was Morse trying to get around Brady.
Here's a look at it as we'll start it from turn 2. Brady on the inside, Morse on the outside, and oh wow, Brady just completely overdrove turn 3. Morse then, I think, tried to cross him over back to the inside. There just wasn't enough room. They were almost 4 wide there, actually, going through turns 3 and 4. I'll tell you what, for as much of an incident as it was, both drivers may have dodged a bullet in terms of contact received, because I don't really think either one of them sustained a lot.
That was a really slow roll on the part of both of them. Brady got a lot more spun around, but they didn't really tag the wall really hard, so they might be able to get that damage repaired pretty swiftly. And was that a little bit of a retaliation from Brady?
No, I don't think so. We're riding on board with him right here, and I think he just thought he might be clear on the 3 and tried coming down, unless you're talking about the revving the car up afterwards, but not sure.
Yeah, the rev after the crash and everything had settled. I'd be watching my back if I was Brady at the moment.
Well, certainly there's frustration on the part of Bo Brady and the fact that with being involved in this incident, more than likely he is not going to be the recipient of the lucky dog.
Yeah, that's crucial too, because he's going to be stuck on a lap down, and in fact, Bobby Germain, I think, is going to get one of his 2 laps back. So, actually, no, make that Bo Brady should be getting his lap back.
Follow up on that and see. Right now, they still have him scored -1, as James Roth actually stayed out an extra lap and now comes down to the attention of his crew. And obviously, the one guy in the field that did not want to see this yellow flag fly was the 36 of Ryan Lutz.
Absolutely. He had gotten quite a bit of a lead going when that yellow came out. Again, about a 3-second lead when the yellow actually did come out. So, definitely regretting that there's nothing he could do about it, but definitely kind of shrugging a little bit, wondering if what if we had gone green all the way to the end. He probably would have continued to extend his lead, but now everyone gets back together. Although I think if everything goes the way it's looking, he might have the 13 below him. No, he's going to the back of the pack. So it is going to be the lead lap car is going to be right behind him. So yeah, tough break for Ryan Lutz, but he's got a fast car. I wouldn't doubt that he's going to continue to be a rocket going forward.
A couple of drivers look like they're going to be pinned a lap down here as well. When we go back green, we just saw the 19 of Randy Koken and the 85 of James Goshen. They actually fell back behind the race leader and right now are being scored 1 lap down. So not certain what happened with them. They were on the lead lap, I do believe, when that caution came out.
I think they were running towards the back of the pack, though, so they might have had something happen on pit road. Maybe they had to come back down. No, they've only been on... Bobby Germain hasn't pitted yet, I just noticed, but there are a couple drivers who have pitted... No, they've all pitted once. So, interesting. That's really interesting. I haven't... I don't know. I don't really know what's going on there. I think that Koking certainly might have had that happen as a result of being towards the back of the pack and just the timing when the yellow came out, but not really sure why the 19's that way.
And it's looking like here too, and it just may be something on our end. It's looking like the 4 of James Roth, who stayed out that extra lap when he came down pit road, he did not take service. Looks like he just passed down through pit lane. So not certain if the 4 has even changed his tires since we started this race. We'll have to follow up on that as back green flag racing we go. Ryan Lutz, Blaine Atkin, the top 2, followed by Whitendorf, Campbell, and Harrelson.
Look at the rocket that Lutz got on the restart, but Atkin stays right with him. Going down to the inside, looks like the 44 is going to have a bit of a run, trying to get back up to the back end of the 36. Here comes John Whitendorf, though. Don't count him out. He has been fast the last 2 weeks, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in the conversation to get the lead of the race late in the race. Check out who's running 4th now. Gerald Campbell has made his way from middle of the pack, now running 4th, challenging Whitendorf for 3rd place.
Campbell looking really fast now to be able to clear himself of a lot of traffic. Oh, that time, though, did get a piece of the wall coming out of turn 2, and you have to wonder just how durable these 87 cars really are. A hit like that, is that going to affect the way that car runs for the remainder of this stint, or is it okay?
Well, we saw at Daytona there was a lot of cars running with a lot of damage that seemed to be okay in a straight line, so it might translate over to Richmond, but man, what a pass on the outside that Campbell made. So get the 3rd spot to Campbell. And now Atkin is going for Lutz. Battle for the lead going on. It's about a car length and a half between the 2 of them. Good battles going on the racetrack right now.
One of the most fun cameras to follow here in the 87 series, the onboard inside the cockpit, being able to watch the hands of Blaine Atkin as he traverses around this short track. And you just always, every time they go into that corner, into turn 1 or turn 3, there's that little bit of counter steering there to make sure the car is going to point in the right direction.
Yeah, you get on the brakes. This is one of the tracks that you absolutely have to get onto the brakes. And depending on where you've got your brake bias set at, if it's more in the front, you're going to be fighting your car to keep it straight going into the turn. Also don't want to lock up the wheels either. Remember, these cars don't have ABS, so getting on the brakes, but not too hard so you lock them up, is going to be crucial for this series and a lot of series that run at this track. So, and it's one of the weirder braking zones on turn 1 because you have to be turning left as you're braking in. Remember that this front stretch is kind of just a progressive left-hand turn all the way around into turn 1. So a lot of strain on the drivers to make sure that they get the turn in right. Oh, there's contact between Atkin and Lutz is around.
And right in front of Gerald Campbell in oncoming traffic, they're all able to avoid him as contact for the race lead results in Lutz spinning off of turn 4.
He didn't hit anything, though, so I think he might be okay, but tough break for the 36 going all the way back down to now. I think he's going to cross the line in 18th.
We saw this kind of generating over into turn 3. Blaine Atkin putting the pressure on Ryan Lutz, and right there, puts the bumper to him, sends him up the track, and as Lutz tries to gather the thing back up, it snaps around on him, and that could have been so much worse. If that had happened maybe a half second later, he more than likely would have gotten T-boned by the 31 car.
Absolutely. Campbell came in with a full head of steam, and had he not gone a little slower, I think that we could have had a very big crash, but that's tough break. That's just big racing, and you know that Atkin, he was trying to go for the bump and run, but a little bit too ambitious. But Lutz, good job to keep it off the inside wall, keep it off the outside wall as well, because he was heading straight for it, but he turned it to the inside just in the nick of time.
Well, Ryan Lutz has so far led the first 50 some odd laps of this race, but now he's going to have to work his way from the back up to the front yet again. This is a guy that had nearly 3 seconds between himself and second place at one point during that first long green flag run.
And I know how that feels too, because when you have a lead that's really large, and then you have something happen that just erases the lead, and then have something like this happen, then it's a gut wrencher. He's got a fast car, so I'm no doubt in his ability to make his way through the field. There's plenty of time left, so I still think that we're going to see him at the front towards the end of the race, but still a long mountain to climb for that 36 team.
Well, no surprise, nobody coming to pit road here under this caution. I mean, why would you, except maybe to top off the fuel tank, and you're certainly not going to give up track position at Richmond to do that. So it gives us the opportunity to shout out a new sponsor here for GeForce Sim Racing, as they've brought on Black Rifle Sim Racing, a sim rig seller out of Nashville, Tennessee. You can check them out at braverifle.com, and users can use the code GeForce and get a 30% discount on any purchase. So be sure to check them out. And so cool to see leagues be able to bring on that extra sponsorship and whatnot. And of course, GeForce here has had a lot of different sponsors during the course of the series that we've done. Not only the previous season here of the Vintage A7 series, but also the Grand National series. So be sure to check out the braverifle.com sim rig website.
Sim rigs are important, so if you have a good sim rig, then chances are that your racing might be a little bit better, and I know they certainly add to the immersion, so having a good sim rig under your belt is definitely important if you want to go for immersion and having that little bit of edge over the competition. So glad to see them on, but we have a heated race going on at the moment, and I can't wait to see some of these drivers try to make their way through the field.
Now, a couple of things that happened here under this round of pacing laps. Bo Brady in the 20 was the recipient of the lucky dog. He will finally be back on the lead lap. One driver that did come to pit road, and it looks like of his own fruition, is the 63 of Hank Steinmiller, who's been running up inside of the top 7 ever since we dropped the green flags. So interesting strategy on the part of Steinmiller to drop himself towards the rear of the field back into traffic.
That might be strategy for later on in the race, because if we have a long run and that results in a yellow that comes out, then he can stay out. He can get free track position as everyone else has to come in. But we're going to put him under green yet again. Blaine Atkin with a heck of a jump out of turn number 4. Down to the inside of the racetrack, tried to get to the inside line, but just barely got back to the outside line before that thing went around, but now he's got a pretty good gap back to Campbell.
And remember, Campbell did not come to pit road. Oh, got a caution. It's in the back, and it's Steinmiller involved in this one, along with, I believe that was the 19 of Randy Koking.
Oh, don't tell me that Brady was involved again.
I think he was. I'm seeing some extra front-end damage on that 20 machine. I think he may have been collected up in this one.
Oh, no, that's the second one he's been involved in so far, so this has really been a nightmare of a race for the 20 team.
Oh man, he was more than involved. He was up and over, as we will see here. Watch up ahead. The contact, I think, is going to be in front of these guys. Yeah, that's James Goshen that's getting bounced around. And then the contact there between Koking and Brady sends the 20 car up onto its roof and actually makes impact with the driver's side while upside down into the outside wall.
That car almost came to a dead stop, too, when he hit the wall. Man, that's a hard hit. Koking's car also slammed into Steinmiller and then just came to a dead stop on the outside of the racetrack. Man, both of these hits were really hard.
We talked about one of the drivers making their debut tonight, Bobby Germain, and it looks like some miscommunication on the restart with the 13 in front is what led to this. There's contact between Lutz and Goshen, sends Goshen up into Hank Steinmiller, and then that contact further back between Brady and Koking is what led to the caution coming out. So a lot of miscommunication on the initial drop of the green flag for this restart is pretty much what led to everything that happened over into turn one.
Yeah, that was... You hate to see stuff like that happen, and the track closes up so much when you go into turn one because the wall kind of jets out a little bit, so it makes you feel a little bit claustrophobic when you go down in there, so really nowhere to escape for the 20. Couldn't get to the apron. The pit wall comes right out almost to the edge of the racetrack, so, man, just tough breaks for all these drivers, and they're all still running, though, as far as I can tell, so Brady is still on the racetrack in 16th. I think he's come down pit road, though. Maybe not. That car's still got some damage on it. So I don't think he's come down pit road. Steinmiller, who was banking on a caution coming out to get some free track position, but I don't think he thought that he was going to be the caution. He's going to be in 17th with a lot of damage on the 63. So that plan, I don't know if he's regretting that plan or not, but he's coming down pit road to get some damage repaired. But man, talk about a plan backfiring.
I'm not certain who would be the lucky dog under this caution. Goshen was supposed to be in the free pass position, but of course he was involved in that incident. Randy Koking, 4 laps down, was involved in the incident, and Bobby Germain right now 5 laps down. I don't know if he would end up getting one of those 5 laps back here as the lucky dog driver or not, but it's interesting because I've been looking here through our running order, and we've already highlighted drivers like Blaine Atkin, like John Whitendorf, who are up here towards the front and up at the top of the point stands as well. And we've already documented as well about the early issues that Cooper Johnson was having. He now finds himself in 8th, but a couple of other drivers that are just inside or outside of the top 5. Jake Hounchow right now 5th in points. He's holding down the 6th position, but one driver I've noticed that has not made, I don't think, an emergence yet up inside of the top 10, and that's the 16 of Anthony Guarneri, who had 2 great races to start out the season, 6th in points, but it just seems like Richmond has not been to his liking here tonight.
Achilles heel for the 16 team, it seems like, only on race 3, but yeah, he's had quite the struggle to get up to the front of the field. He's had battles going on throughout the rest of the race. I think him, Bruce Pierce, and Shane Lake have been battling quite a bit, so they're all kind of running around each other at the back of the pack. So we might see that 16 with a bit of speed later on. He was running very well at Rockingham, was leading the race at one point, and was gapping the field a little bit. So he knows how to get around this track, and I think we're going to go back to green as Atkin gets us back underway. And wow, another whale of a restart that 44 got.
He is on it when it comes to restarts, is Bo Brady, and things got stacked up back there from about the 5th position. Jeff Green, Kyle Johnson, Jake Hounchow, Cooper Johnson, all in that vicinity.
Yeah, there's a lot of stack up back there. You get all the way stacks back up to Mitchell Blanton, Jackson Mclaren, which we haven't mentioned tonight in that 7 machine. Slowly making his way up to the front is that 7 of McLaren. He's down to the inside of the 24 of Michael Blanton, getting around him for the 9th position. Now going to work on Jake Hounchow on the inside for the 8th position. So going the right direction is McLaren at the moment.
Certainly looking like you do not want to get kicked up to that second groove. It's the longer way around the racetrack, obviously, but not only that, it just doesn't seem like there's nearly enough grip up there to be able to stay side by side with the driver you're battling. So it almost seems to me that you kind of try to cut your losses and find a space in line down that inside line, which Hounchow's going to try and do right here, tucking in front of the 3 of Christopher Morse Jr.
Yeah, as I look at it, there's a lot more rubber built up on the inside of the racetrack right now, so that is where all the speed is. A lot more traction that you can grip. And everyone pretty much in the top 5 has gotten into a bit of a groove. Atkin trying to pull away. He's only got about a 3/10 gap back to Campbell, which is about another 3/10 gap back to Whitendorf, which is about another 3/10 gap back to Harleston. So all these cars running pretty close together, and then you go back to Kyle Johnson, which finds himself running in 5th after everything is settled out.
Riding on board with our former race leader, Ryan Lutz, right now in the 12th position, and they are double file ahead of him as he tries to work his way back up to the front of the field. And boy, this is a hairy situation right now for the 36, who spent the first 50 so laps out in clean air.
I would dare say that is probably the fastest car on the racetrack right now, hand over fist, because he is picking them off and putting them down like it's nothing. He's whizzing past all these drivers. Now he's going to work on the 24 of Blanton. Can he get to the inside and get past? You bet he can. With ease does the 36 get around the 24. Now he sets his sights on Christopher Morse, who's made emerges back into the top 10.
Ryan Lutz, as I said, very good when it comes to the short tracks, and a way that you can easily tell that is when he made the pass on the 24. Did you notice how well he rotated through the center while hooking the bottom? That proves it's someone that's gotten around Richmond a time or two.
Absolutely. The way you approach this track is very simple. If you know how to trail brake, then you know how to get through turn 1 the fastest. All you got to do is just slowly roll off the brake as you go through the turn, and then once the car hits the apex and flips around, then you just apply the throttle. So he's constantly under braking and definitely idle going through, well, no throttle anyway, going through all the way to about the middle of the track right there, and then he gets back on the power once the car rotates, comes back out, and you can see just the run difference he got on the 7 and the 3. I don't think he's going to try and go 3 wide. Certainly can do it at this racetrack, but very dangerous to do it. Is if the guys below you don't know you're there, it can go really wrong really quick.
Waiting to see if Christopher Morse Jr. can make the pass on Mclaren, then he'll most certainly fill in that hole in his attempt to move inside of the top 10. Meanwhile, up at the front, we were watching it generate, and it's back on again. The battle for the lead. Campbell drives it deep into turn 3, gets alongside of Blaine Atkin. Can he outdo him up here to the start-finish line? Not quite, about maybe a couple feet short, but he will have the inside advantage into 1.
There was a bit of a bobble on the 44. He is a game out of turn 4. Now he's going to try the crossover through turn 2. Not quite enough speed to get along the inside, but still within a close proximity to the 31 of Campbell. Does Atkin try it again? Oh, he almost got into the back end of Campbell. That's the same move he tried earlier in the race with Lutz, and that's what sent him around. So playing a little bit dangerously is Atkin to the inside. Oh, contact.
And that's going to bring John Whitendorf into the vicinity, as that killed the momentum on the 44. Whitendorf and Atkin now going to battle for second, as now 0.6 of a second advantage. Gerald Campbell to the point.
Oh, check out Whitendorf. He's got a bit of a run coming into turn 1. Does he sail it in? Atkin sails it in even further. That was a great turn 1 on the part of Atkin. Was able to get away, but a better exit by Whitendorf. This battle's not going away anytime soon.
And I almost wonder if, going back to the contact we saw between Atkin and Lutz through 3 and 4, and then the near contact we saw between himself and Campbell just a couple of laps ago, I wonder if it's because Blaine Atkin is able to get back to the throttle sooner through the center of 3 and 4, and when he's right on the back bumper of the car in front of him, whoa, Campbell with a slide off of 2. But with being able to get back to the throttle sooner, it puts him into the back of the car that he's racing.
That might be the case, and that might be why he gets such good runs. And I don't think he has the intention to do that, but it's just the way that his car gets through the turns. And we're seeing a lot of it now, is that it seems that he's able to sail it in, but he's not able to get the exit on these cars, because you can see that Whitendorf never really loses him out into the turns, but Atkins certainly gains a lot of ground going in.
Saw the pass right there of Jackson Mclaren around Cooper Johnson. Back here, we've nearly had some contact going into 3 as James Roth and Anthony Guarneri battle for 13th place. And that's just one of the things I love about short track racing is you look all the way through the field and there's always a battle that's going on. Doesn't matter if it's for the lead or if it's for next to last. There's always something going on.
Absolutely. There's never a dull moment when you're at a short track, because you get into some of the super speedways and the speedways where everyone kind of settles in line and it's more about you versus physics than it is battling on the racetrack. And sometimes they can get spread out, but you know, speedways are definitely fun to watch too, but there's something about a short track. When you get cars that are next to each other constantly throughout a lap, where you're more or less battling each other rather you are battling the race car, it's something special to watch these drivers really go at it in a dogfight, and a lot of them are dogfighting right now as back there they're still battling.
Whoa. Kyle Johnson, we were just on board with him, and he clobbers the wall there out of turn 4, then makes contact with the 36 of Ryan Lutz as he tried to block him going into turn 1.
Now this is a good battle for the 6th place position between the 88 and the 36. You could throw Jeff Green into that mix very soon, and it's going to be a battle for 5th place in here in a moment because he's getting caught up by these two. Is Jeff Green showing himself in the top 5. He's trying to catch up to Harrelson, but Harrelson's been able to get away from the 2 machine. He's actually got himself up to these top 3. He's going to show himself battling for the lead of the race very soon if he's on that kind of pace, but now we're getting to that stage of the race, Seth, where the tires are starting to wear down, and it's more or less about coaxing your cars around, trying not to spin around on the exit of corners.
Yeah, we're getting close to the halfway point of this race. So these drivers who, up to this point, I believe, have only used one of the sets of tires waiting for them in pit road. I mean, they could have as many as 2 sets of tires waiting for them in the closing stages of this race, depending on where the cautions fall. And I'm certainly hoping that I'm not breaking out the commentator's curse, but what a great run so far for the 07 of Seth Harrelson. You documented on his great qualifying effort earlier on today, and this is a guy that needs to get his season turned around. The numbers have just not been what he would have wanted in the first 2 races of the season. He's mired down 25th in points, and great performance so far for him.
Absolutely, and if he can continue on this track, this is going to be a big points day for this 07 team. He's been fast. He was fast at Daytona, and had a couple crashes happen to him that it took him out of contention. And then last week, we saw the lap down fiasco that happened. It had a couple incidences that mired him down towards the back of the pack. So certainly not the kinds of runs he's needed, but definitely looking good now as towards the lead of the race. They're trying to get around the lap machine of, I believe that's Germain again, as he's on the outside of the racetrack. So, but Harrelson, if he can keep it track and keep it go in the right direction, then he is very easily could get a top 5 tonight.
Lane Atkin has been able to reel Gerald Campbell back in. Campbell again with a slide off the corner, and Atkin, I think he followed him with that slide off of turn 2. He gets back to the bumper of the 31, but he's brought John Whitendorf along with him. So throw a blanket over your top 3. That's only 0.4 of a second separating your top trio.
Wasn't it Atkin that was sliding a lot last week when we were getting to the end of a tire run? I think that it's transferred over to Campbell, because Campbell's doing the exact same thing that Atkin was. Now, the only difference is Atkin's ready to strike. He is right there. So too is Whitendorf. He has closed up the gap quite a bit. Look at the run that Atkin gets out of turn 4. Does he have something down the front straightaway? I don't think so.
He tried to get to the outside, and he actually might try and do it again, but got blocked, had to get back into the brakes a little bit longer, I think, than he wanted to. Now Whitendorf on his back bumper for the 2nd position. Going back to Gerald Campbell, you know, you can't just tromp on the throttle when you come off corner X. You have to ease into it, and I think that might be why we're seeing all that wheel spin out of the 31. He's realizing the pressure that Blaine Atkin is putting on him, and so he's desperate to get back to the throttle coming off of turn 2.
Absolutely. Whoa, look at Whitendorf sailing it into turn number 1. Gets the pass done. Here comes the crossover from Atkin. Atkin with a run now on the back straightaway down into turn 3. Can he get the car all the way down the inside and keep it there? You bet he can. He's trying to hold it. Can he get the run out, or does Whitendorf on the outside have something for him going into turn 1?
Whitendorf continues to battle back, but especially down here in 1 and 2, I just don't think that outside line has enough grip to be able to hold off the inside line. More the fool me, though. Whitendorf did a pretty good job there rotating it through the center. He's going to stay alongside of Atkin, at least for the time being.
If he can arc it in and get a nice run out of turn 3. He might be able to get to the inside of the racetrack. He's got a run going down the front stretch. We saw him do it a few laps ago. Can he do it again? Atkin looks like he was just too far ahead. But we now know what Whitendorf can do, and more importantly, Blaine Atkin knows what Whitendorf can do, so you bet he's going to be looking out for that later in the race when it's really crunch time.
Now the battle behind them for fourth. Ooh, Jeff Green pushes up the track, and don't adjust your sets. Yes, that's the 36 of Ryan Lutz taking him 3 wide. It's been a slow, painstaking process, but he finally has worked his way back into the top 5, getting a 2-for-1 special, 6th to 4th for Ryan Lutz.
And he did it in style, took him 3 wide, now clear, now you can set his sights on the top 3 who are still battle for the lead. Blaine Atkin to the inside of Jared Campbell, they're rubbing doors coming out of turn 4. Who gets to the line first? Looks like this time by it's going to be Atkin, but this battle is going to bring in Whitendorf to the fray.
And it very well might bring in Ryan Lutz and Jeff Green as well as Seth Harrelson if they continue to battle like this amongst themselves.
Back there, it looks like...
Caution! Got a wreck. I believe it might be Jason Hounchow in the 00. I think he might have looped it around on the front straightaway. Was having a great run here tonight up inside of the top 10.
He's got a lot of rear end damage, so I'm thinking he might have backed it into the outside wall.
Go back and take a look at what happened to Jason Hounchow. He was at the time trying to make his way around the lap machine of Germain, had Hank Steinmiller behind him. I think he just got up there into the wall. It slowed his momentum down, and Steinmiller wasn't able to get on the brakes in time.
Yeah, that's a wicked load of understeer that he had, and it just sailed up to the wall, and Steinmiller, there was nothing he could do. He couldn't get on the brakes in enough time to slow the car down, but man, that was a hard shot to the rear end of the 00 of Hounchow. Also, too, did Bobby Germain get involved a little bit? He got a little contact off of Steinmiller.
On board with the 63, and you can just see right there, he was already attempting to make a pass to the inside of Jason Hounchow and just could not get off of this 00 when he was trapped up there into the wall. And you know this as well as I do, Anthony, that usually you get up into the wall like that, it's one of the cases where the wall hugs you in. It's very difficult to get back off of it.
The wall is a very lonely person and loves any opportunity for contact of any kind. So definitely, you get stuck on the wall, he does not want to let you go for anything. And I think we saw it happen here. The best example of it happening is definitely just what happened, because he couldn't get off, and then all of a sudden, here comes somebody else, and it still tracks back up to the wall.
Cooper Johnson is going to stay out. This is an interesting strategy from our Daytona winner, as he's been out there for 52 laps on his set of tires and doesn't look like he's got any thoughts about coming down pit road, so might be planning on saving an extra set of tires when maybe the rest of his competition have used up theirs. But I don't know. I'm a little worried about a 50-plus lap tire car going into turn 1 with fresh tires behind him.
Yeah, that is... I think he's coming into pit road this time, so I think he understands that might not be a good idea. He did get a couple laps led, though, so there's some kudos to him. So he's going to come down and get some fresh tires. That is a pretty big gap if you're going to have tire versus tire. You can maybe get away with it if it's a few laps old, but certainly not more than 50. So that 14 team now going to bring him in and tell him he needs to get tires.
All right, so we talked about the rivalries possibly coming out of Rockingham. We may have already started some rivalries here tonight at Richmond, and obviously we don't hear the driver communication that goes on during these races, but moments ago we had that contact where Blaine Atkin got into Ryan Lutz and spun him around off of turn 4. Now there may have been an exchange where one said, "I'm sorry," the other one says, "You're good." There may have been nothing said, which is usually not a good sign. These two are going to be lined up nose to tail, Atkin in front of Lutz when we go back green.
And that is not where Atkin wants to be at. And this is perfect for Ryan Lutz. Lutz made his way up to the front, got that lucky caution, was able to now be on the same pit cycle as everyone else. And he remembers what happened. So I don't think that he's going to be too shy to use the front end of his 36 car. Now, I don't know if he's going to do it this earlier on, and he might not even do it at all. But the fact that he's got a mind game advantage over Blaine Atkin is definitely going to be, I think, going to be in the back of Atkin's mind, knowing that he's got someone behind him that he's done wrong to earlier in the race. And oh, by the way, it's a short track, and we're coming down to less than, I believe we're about less than 80 laps to go. So it's getting to crunch time for some of these drivers because these laps have ticked by pretty quick.
And when you think about it, too, who has the most to lose? I mean, Blaine Atkin's the points leader. Ryan Lutz, he finds himself 18th in the standings. So this could get interesting as Atkin gets a decent start, but he didn't exactly get the best restart he's had all night. Ryan Lutz, John Whitendorf, Gerald Campbell right there with him through turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, and Lutz has got a fast car. He's already back to the back end of the 44. Does he try a move? Not now, but maybe he tries to set up a move for turn 1. Does he get a run out of 4 make it? No, actually, Atkin gets a run out of 4. So not close enough is Lutz to make a move, but battle for third place. It's going to be between Campbell and Whitendorf. This battle heating up, and throw Jeff Green in there for some extra seasoning.
Saw right there the 85 of James Goshen. I think he may have had a problem off of turns 1 and 2. That car came to a stop for a brief moment. He now is down pit road out of the way of the race leaders, but no caution coming out. 2 drivers have retired from the event as well. Shane Lake parking it in the 21st position, Bo Brady in 22nd place, and caution will fly.
I think he's got some front end damage on the front left, it looks like.
Looks like he may have possibly looped it on the front straightaway, maybe down into the inside wall going into the turn 1 entry, perhaps.
He spun in the middle of the straightaway. I've never seen that before.
Looks like he may have been having some connection problems here. Oh, wow.
That is a hard shot.
Yeah, the connection problem is when a car spins down in the infield grass, sometimes it will occasionally disappear, but yeah, that doesn't look normal.
Certainly not. I've never seen a car spin at the start-finish straight, or the start-finish line, rather, at this track. It just tracked left. I don't think he had control of that car.
This will give us a telltale sign. We're going to go inside the cockpit of that 16 car and see just exactly what the hand movement is here. If we see him turn back to the right, then obviously that car is stepping out on him, but no, the car, it's steady, and wow.
Yeah, he did try to correct it. I've never seen that.
Well, especially that far off of turn 4. If it were just exiting out of the final corner, that's one thing, but he was on the front straightaway, almost to the start-finish line by the time that thing snapped around.
I think that might have gotten some bad aero from the guys in front of him.
Well, he's on pit road right now. To me, first impression is that there's something mechanical that's going on, whether it be with the car or maybe with the sim rig that he's got. Because that just seemed like an odd place for a car to go around. We've not seen a driver out of shape on the front straightaway like that so far this entire race.
Well, I don't think I've ever seen a car that out of shape on the front straightaway here. Because once you get past, or once you get up to the start-finish line, it's almost impossible to spin it around after that. I think he's got something a bit more sinister than a loose race car going on right now.
Well, he still sits on pit lane, actually just now coming off of pit road. He'll remain on the lead lap, so that's the good news. And looks like James Roth, he was the recipient of the lucky dog under the last caution. He's going to be 17th. James Goshen, I think, is going to be the lucky dog under this yellow, but he has fallen 3 laps down, so he will be -2 when we get back green flag racing. Blaine Atkin, still the race leader, with Lutz now in 2nd. Campbell 3rd, Whitendorf in 4th, and Green in 5th. That's Kyle Johnson, Christopher Morris Jr., Seth Harrelson, Jake Hounchow, and Jackson Mclaren. That is the top 10. Good run here tonight for Bruce Pearson. Struggled last week at Rockingham making his debut, but so far here tonight has kept his car out of trouble and relatively clean, and right now holding down a spot just outside of the top 10.
Yeah, and he is looking inside really well these last few runs. He's tried to get a good run for that 22 machine, and I gotta say, like you said, he is done really well with that car, and if he can get around McLaren, then I think that he might have a shot to stay within the top 10, but we'll have to wait and find out. As that 22 machine is quick on the straights, not so much in the turns, but if he can get a good run going into the straights, I think that he's going to be a top contender.
So we are now into, I think we could safely say go time. People would say, well, there's still 70 laps to go, but it doesn't take them very long to tick away laps here at Richmond. So normally when you end up getting, even with 100 laps to go, you got to start planning your moves to win this race. And so I think now we may end up seeing a couple more cautions come out regularly than we saw in that long 50-lap green flag run to start this thing.
Certainly so. As they just come out of turn 2, we're going to set them back going green this time around. Pace lights are out. So, and I've noticed something that Atkins been doing. He's been going up to the high side of the racetrack on the last lap before they go back to green. That's where he likes to be at. That's where he likes to restart. Everyone else is taking note. They're going to go right up nose to tail. We're green flag racing again. A good jump again by Atkin, but there was a lot of them went with him, and Campbell, I think, might have had some contact between him and Weitendorf because Campbell went down the inside of the racetrack really quick.
Yeah, Jeff Green got stacked up there as well. That's something we've seen that's kind of been consistent so far here tonight as well. The top 2, 3 are able to get away, and then the stack up begins just outside of the top 5 is now Weitendorf on the back bumper of Campbell, who in turn pulls up to the back bumper of Ryan Lutz.
And Lutz is not going as fast as we thought he was. I think that maybe now he's got back into that group of cars that are just as quick as he is, he's going to have some struggle. But here comes Campbell. Can he make a move to the inside? Certainly thought about it, but he's not going to force the issue quite yet. Look at these top 4. You could throw a blanket all over them. They're all in the same camera shot almost sometimes. So a good group of cars going on right now. It's a lot of cars we see at the front of the field. Last week, you could throw Atkin in there. You could throw Weitendorf and Campbell in that group.
We had some contact off of turn 2 between Jeff Green and Christopher Morse Jr. That stacked up the 3 and dropped him back into the clutches of Jake Hounchow in a battle for 7th. They're side by side behind them. That's Jackson Mclaren on the inside of Seth Harrelson for a spot inside of the top 10, 9th position.
Check out Cooper Johnson also just outside of this group of cars, trying to make his way back into the top 10 just outside in 11th place. And if they keep racing like that in front of him, he might be able to get underneath Harrelson and take that 10th place position away. That's their Daytona winner trying to get back into the mix.
Morse crosses back to the inside of Hounchow. Further up, battle going on for 3rd place. It's going to be Weitendorf taking a peek on the 36 of Ryan Lutz. And you have to wonder, you know, we talked about the fact that Ryan Lutz did not get any damage when he spun off of turn 4, but then he got a little bit of contact side-swiping. I think it was Goshen in the 85 on the restart following. That damage right there might be why we're not really seeing the 36 quite as fast as he was when he led the early portions of this race.
He might also be saving his tires. We saw him cutting through the field really quick earlier in the race, so when he's trying to make his way back up to the front, so he might be saving his stuff for later in the race. Certainly needs to think about going, though, because we're coming down to about 66 laps to go, and the way that these laps have been going down, they're going down really quick. We're averaging about 22.9 seconds a lap. Well, maybe that's 23.6 seconds a lap that last time by. So we're averaging about 23.5 seconds, maybe a little bit less than that now. So these laps, they go by. You can go through 4 laps in under just over a minute. So not a whole lot of time for these drivers to work with late in the race.
You know, it's interesting, too, because we're yet to really know just how far these drivers can go on a tank of fuel. We know that it's a 70% fuel load, but the longest run we've had so far was 52 laps. That was the start of the race to our first caution. We went back green flag racing with about 70 laps to go, so it's a big question mark on whether or not they can make it a 70-lap stint with what they had in the tank, or whether or not these drivers are going to have to be on pit road between now and the checkered flag.
And that's only assuming that we go green all the way to the end. We have a lot of cars that are battling really close, and when it gets to crunch time, you're going to see a lot of drivers try to make moves to get themselves in a better position at the end of the race. Certainly Seth Harrelson, because he, again, like you said earlier, he is mired quite a ways down in the standings. So running 10th right now in a group of cars, you know that the 07 wants to get around some of these other drivers. You got Jake Hounchow in front of him, Jackson Mclaren up the road a little bit. You got Christopher Morse, and he's also trying to defend against Cooper Johnson. So people like him might make desperate moves late in the race, try to get every bit of advantage they can, try to get as many points as they can going towards the championship later on. But again, still race 3, so I don't know how much he'd want to force it knowing that he's that far back. He might be happy to take a top 10.
So it's interesting when you brought up Ryan Lutz and the possibility of saving. It cast my memory back to a race which I believe was actually at Richmond as well. It was a nighttime condition race where Ryan Lutz was leading, and we were thinking he surely has to come down to pit road soon. He went 120 laps on a tank of fuel and a set of tires, so that could be something that he's doing right now, making sure that if indeed there is that slight gray area on whether you can make it or not from here to the checkered flag, he wants to be one of the ones that are certain he can.
Yeah, and especially if he gets this race going all the way to the end without any other yellow flags, that is certainly something that could benefit him. If he's been the only one saving that much fuel to get to the end of the race and everyone else has to come down pit road under green, he'll accumulate almost a 2-lap lead at that point. And even if a yellow does come out after that, the closest anyone can get to him is another lap back. So, whoa, Campbell almost was the yellow.
Gracious, not only almost lost it off of turn 2, then almost got up into the wall and got punted by the 36 who was right on his back bumper, and now it looks like Lutz saying, all right, if your car's that bad out of shape, let me on by because I might have something for this 44.
He smells opportunity and he's taking it. Still, the 31's taking a battle to him. Oh, got a little bit unsettled at the exit of turn 2, but still trying to stay with him. Now here comes Weitendorf. He smells the opportunity and now going to the inside of the 31 of Campbell, trying to get that position. I believe if he keeps it into turn 1, he might have it.
You talk about the progressive banking that this track has, a lot more banking when you get higher up on the track than down there closer to that flat apron. And I have to wonder, a lot of these drivers look like they're getting ready to make a dive bomb move, especially down to turn 3. Then they back off and still are able to rotate through the center. I mean, how do you kind of gauge yourself to make sure that that thing's not just going to drive straight when you enter that shallow into a corner like that?
It's a battle of attrition, really, with these cars. You have to be careful with it. You can't overdrive it because, you know, if you do, then you're going to have a lot of understeer. We've seen it earlier in the race. Somebody went up to the wall, but, man, look at the run that Campbell got on the inside of Weitendorf. They're passing the lap machine of Germain again. Now, check out behind him. Kyle Johnson's coming up into this mix along with Jeff Green, so this battle for third might become a four-way battle very quickly, and it has.
This says to me that the car is pretty durable if you brush the outside wall, because 2 of the drivers in your shot right there, actually 3 drivers in your shot, have been up into the outside wall so far in this race. Campbell, Johnson, and Jeff Green, and they're all still right up inside of the top 6.
They are indeed. These cars can take a few hits, but I don't think you want to hit them too much. We have seen where getting too much damage is detrimental, but still side by side between Weitendorf and Campbell. Here comes Johnson. He's in on the inside of Campbell as well, trying to make a pass for 4th place, I believe it will be. But he's trying to get there. Oh, look at it. Oh, they're so close. This is making me really anxious right now.
That's going to almost be 3 wide there off of turn 4 as Johnson's taking a look. Not quite going to be able to get the inside of Weitendorf, who then gets pinned down to the inside by Gerald Campbell. Jeff Green right there gets a front row seat. Christopher Morse Jr. back there as well in the vicinity, wanting to get up here and make it a 5-car fight for a spot just inside of the top 3.
It doesn't look like anybody has an advantage. Getting it, whoa, 3 wide. Look at Campbell on the outside, gets caught there, tries to get to the inside, almost cuts down into Weitendorf. But look at Kyle Johnson. Can he get 2? Oh, he almost spun it out of 2, but he does. I think he's going to have the advantage going into turn 3.
And he's going to try and bring Jeff Green along with him as Green pushes up into turn 3, almost into the driver's side door of Gerald Campbell. And this is only the battle for 3rd place. Your race leader is currently 2 seconds ahead of this, and about a second and a half is 2nd place Ryan Lutz. They're trying to close up the battle for the race win potentially. Right now, you got 5, almost 6 drivers battling for the 3rd position.
This is what happens when you get caught side by side here at Richmond. You really can't go anywhere. The outside line does get a bit of an advantage if you can make it work, but the inside line is the way to go. Now, Johnson finally gets away from Weitendorf, but here comes Jeff Green through now for 4th place. Green's going after the 88, and here comes Morse as well.
Gotta wonder for the 80 of Kyle Johnson, how much of his tires did he use up in his attempt to get up to the 3rd position? Same for Jeff Green in the 2, who now slots into 4th. And Morse now gonna crack the top 5 as he got a little loose there out of turn 4, but will complete the pass on John Whitendorf. So there's 3 drivers right there that were battling up for the 3rd position just moments ago. Whitendorf, Campbell, and they've fallen outside the top 5 now.
It's crazy. The span of only a few laps and the complete scope of the top 5 has changed. You have those 2 out. Jake Hounchow, whoa, 31 is around. He saves it. Whoa, he was sideways coming out of turn 4, but he got that car saved. And I was talking about Harrelson. Harrelson now benefits from that. He's up into the 7th, I believe, make that in the 8th position now.
Following in the tire tracks of Jake Hounchow, who moved up to 7th after Campbell's mishap off of turn 4. Campbell has now dropped all the way back to the 9th position and now under fire from, I believe that is Jackson Mclaren in the 7. That's a driver that's had a very consistent day as well.
Yeah, he's slowly been making his way up towards the top 10. He finds himself in 10th place. He's still got Cooper Johnson behind him, trying to hound him for the 10th position, but still a consistent run for McLaren, and that's good for him because McLaren is actually running pretty well in the standings right now. He's running 13th after 2 races, so consistency might get him into the top 10 very soon, and if he can stay consistent, he might have something for the top 5 later.
Yeah, he's definitely going to pick up a spot in the standings here tonight over Blake Ripley, who was 12th in points coming into tonight, but is not in tonight's festivities. And, you know, looking at a driver that he might be able to surpass to move into the top 10 here tonight, we really just have not seen Hank Steinmiller put together the evening that we expected after the strength of that 63 up inside of the top 5 in the beginning stages of this race.
Not at all. He's running with a lot of damage back there, running in 17th. A lot of rear end damage. Nobody really around him because Guarneri is way up the road, and then you have James Goshen that's a lap down behind him, or 3 laps down behind Steinmiller make it. But he's also in front, so that car is very wounded. He's just trying to make it to the end of this race as well. Someone else that I don't think he'll pass for position in the point standings, but certainly is in close proximity to, is James Roth. He finds himself in the 12th place position, going underneath the 13 of Germain, who got a little bit of the outside wall, but he's running by himself at the moment. McLaren only finds himself 3 positions in front of him, and I think McLaren's just gotten around for 9th place.
Yes, he did. He actually got around Gerald Campbell, who is struggling, and that's an understatement. Another time he got loose off of turn 2 that allowed McLaren to pass him for the 9th position, and that 31, I think those tires are screaming. He's hoping for a caution because he needs fresh rubber. There is no grip right now for him.
Not at all, and that benefits Cooper Johnson, who now finds himself in the top 10. But again out of turn 4, sideways was Gerald Campbell, just trying to nurse that car around and hope that by the time the pit cycle happens that he's able to get on pit road A-OK. But we're 41 laps into this cycle for most of these drivers, and still just dancing around the racetrack, trying to hold on to it.
Boy, Kyle Johnson, what a move there as he cleared himself in front of Jeff Green to try and cross over Christopher Morse Jr. for the 3rd position. Could not do it. And one thing I was noticing the 3 car do the last time around through 1 and 2, he didn't do it this time, but he actually ran a little bit higher through the 1st and 2nd corners, not right down there on that yellow line. So that kind of says to me that maybe we're getting to the point where that fuel tank is getting lighter and lighter, and these drivers are going to have to start thinking about coming to pit road. So far, 43 laps on this stint.
Yeah, we've seen them been able to go about 50 to 55 laps on a stint before yellow comes out. So this is also the time that we see some yellows come out, because that car does get a lot harder to handle and more mistakes are apt to happen. But so far, everyone's running in a straight line. Christopher Morse is now running in 3rd place, so he's got a lot of work to do if they want to get back up the leaders, which have checked out from the rest of the field. The top 2 are 4.7 seconds back to Christopher Morse, almost an entire straightaway. Oh, there goes Kyle Johnson to the outside wall. He's been able to save it, but that car took a mad shot to the outside.
Ball's back outside of the top 5 as a result, and we've waited 70 laps for this. It is now a mano-a-mano battle again between Blaine Akin and Ryan Lutz for the race lead, but the roles have been reversed. Now Akin is the hunted, Lutz is the hunter. The 2 of them separated by 1.5 car lengths into 3.
And you better know that Ryan Lutz knows that just run it out. I don't have any interest in battling right now. It's only going to hurt my car. So I bet you he's just sitting there waiting, saving his tires for the moment where he can strike, and he's going to pounce any time now. We've seen that a lot of drivers sometimes will be content to run second because it doesn't really matter if you don't lead the most laps. It's only the last one that really matters as far as, as the score sheet goes. So I have a feeling that this is a bit of a cat and mouse game that Ryan Lutz is playing with Blaine Atkin, or Blaine Atkin might have been able to find the perfect groove, and this is the best that these two can do. But either way, they're both checking out, as now the gap is open to almost 5 seconds.
And obviously these two would hate to see a caution come out to this point. I think they'd be more than happy to have it be a 1v1 battle for this victory. They don't want to have the 3 and the 2 and the 33 enter into this conversation. They want it to just be one driver they have to focus on and one driver alone. But going back to your point there, there's 3 ways that we've seen drivers make passes here tonight. One is you got a strong enough car, you're able to make the pass, no problem. Second thing is you use the bumper. We've seen that done a couple of times. Third thing is the driver ahead of you makes a mistake and you're there to capitalize. I think right now for the 36, option C is the better one because I've seen that 44 get loose off turn 4 a couple of times the last few laps.
I was not so on board with Ryan Lutz at the moment when he's coming out of 4 and he was turning right more than he was turning left. He's fighting that car right now. He was turning right a lot going into turn number 1. He's still fighting the car out of the exit of the turns. There's a lot of hand motion going on the 36 car, but it doesn't seem to be bothering him so much. He's been able to keep that car going in a straight line for the most part. So some really, really intense hand motion going on inside the cockpit.
And we're about to enter into another aspect of short track racing when the leaders catch up to the tail end of the field. I believe that's Hank Steinmiller, 63, first on the hit list, and then soon after the 16 of Anthony Guarneri. These are drivers that are on the tail end of the lead lap, and we see a lot of times at the short tracks, lap traffic can come into play into who the driver is that's going to win this race.
Yeah, they're more or less moving roadblocks to the leaders because the speed difference is so much, and this is a good opportunity for Blaine Atkin. If he can get around one of these drivers and use them as a pick to maybe slow the progress of Ryan Lutz down, then he can get away from Lutz and maybe track away. Oh, wow. I don't know if you saw that. But
he drifted it, didn't he?
Whoa, Lutz was turning. That was incredible. That was an FD move if I ever saw one.
Boy, but you got to wonder what kind of pressure that's going to put on the right rear tire, especially for the 36 car.
Yeah, the tires are loaded right now. Oh, did you see there's a plume of smoke that came out of the 36 car that time by? That car is dancing around the track. I don't think that car is turning left as more as it is just turning right and hoping for the best, because that side of turn 2, if you're looking closely at the tires, you can see his front wheels are turning right a majority of the time through the turns.
Bobby Germain just going another lap down. Now there's Steinmiller and Guarneri up ahead for the 2 leaders to deal with. And you could definitely see that slide that Ryan Lutz had through turn 3 a couple of laps ago. That has affected him in terms of time and track position lost. What was about a car length advantage from Blaine Atkin back to Lutz is now opened up to about 2, maybe 2.5 car lengths.
And now they got to get by, I believe that's Steinmiller that they got to get by now, and he's got a very wounded race car just trying to hold on. Now to the inside goes Atkin to try and put him a lap down. Looks like he's going to get the pass done, so too will Lutz on the inside. So both of them getting around okay, although he's going to have to encounter him on the front straightaway as Lutz. That doesn't seem to have hurt him much. Someone coming off of pit road. That's the 85 of Goshen coming off of pit road now, but not in front of the leaders, which is the most important part.
Yeah, Goshen been doing a good job with his wounded race car to stay out of the way of the race leaders ever since he got damaged back during a restart in the first half of this race. Less than 30 laps to go. You see it there, about a car length and a half gap between Blaine Atkin and Ryan Lutz. But so many questions right now. Where will they encounter the traffic? Can they even make it on fuel? And what are their tires going to look like if they do make it to the checkered flag? By my calculations, they would be crossing the start-finish line with 80 laps on this set of tires.
That is almost too far. If you're a crew chief sitting on the wall, you're on pins and needles right now. You have no idea if these drivers are able to hold on to it as much as they can, but look at the run that Lutz got through underneath Guarneri when they were trying to put him a lap down. Now here comes Lutz trying to make a move. I think he is content to run right there, although Atkin is starting to have some struggle keeping his car going in a straight line now. Starting to see him bobble quite a bit.
Both of these drivers have seeming to have some issues every now and then. I think it's more so the fact that they're trying to outduel each other. For Blaine Atkin, he sees that gap closing up, so he's trying to do everything he can, try and find something different to open it back up, take the pressure off of him. For Gerald Campbell, he's trying to do everything he can to keep that gap closed so that way he can have the 44 make a mistake, and I think that's why we're seeing these drivers not exactly have the most stable cars underneath them right now.
No, absolutely not. They are just hoping that they hold on at this point because the weight is coming out of the back end, making the rear end of the car so light through the turns, and on the banking, it's almost impossible to hold on to it coming out of the turns. And we've seen them kind of just slide out, almost dirt track racing. These cars are. We mentioned at Daytona it was more like watching dirt cars go around at 200 miles an hour, and this is going to carry over to almost every track that we go to throughout this season, where these cars are just dancing around the racetrack. And if you wanted to know what fresh tires will do for you, look no further than James Goshen. He's on fresh tires with a damaged car, that is, but look how much quicker he is than these leaders are on 60-lap old tires now.
Goshen is off the pace, badly damaged, and the last time by, he ran a lap time 0.8 of a second faster than our race leader, Blaine Atkin.
Yeah, that's what fresh sneakers will do for you. He's really stretching the legs on that 85 now. That's a nice scheme on that 85 too. I think they're going for. I see it as wasn't it the
Abi Labani, I do believe, or maybe Ward Burton. Oh, we got a caution. John Whitendorf, the 33. He was running the top 5, and he has looped it around apparently on the back straightaway.
Oh, that is big news for everyone in the top 5. I want to know if he didn't do it by himself.
See who gave him a little bit of help. Oh, the 13 of Bobby Germain, who to his credit was trying to give as much room on the top side as he could. Oh, that looks like a little bit of space in between there, actually. There might have been a tiny bit of netcode possibly in that one.
I think that is entirely netcode. I saw it going down the back straightaway, and I think that it just the way that it looked like he bounced off the 13, but the 13, there was nothing he could do. He was up against the outside wall doing a good job of staying out of the way. So, yeah, I don't think that was contact.
And if you're Ryan Lutz and Blaine Atkin right now, you're going, oh, why? Why did this caution have to come out? Because now you've got 6, 7, 8 competitors possibly that still have the speed capable of trying to battle for this race win. They're on your back door with a restart that's going to be with less than 20 to go.
Oh, Ryan Lutz with a fast stop. I think he beat Atkin off of pit road.
Yes, he did. Well, don't forget, Ryan Lutz had the benefit of that first pit stall with qualifying on the pole position. So a clean exit off of pit lane could have very well played into his being able to win the battle for this race lead.
The stop difference between Lutz and Atkin, you want to know how close that was. Atkin with a 21.9 second stop, Ryan Lutz with a 21.6. So just barely 0.3 even of a second was the difference, and that was all it took to get Lutz into the lead of the race. Give credit to Lutz. He got the power down really quick, was able to keep it going in a straight line. So what a battle off of pit road.
Anthony Guarneri in the 16 going to come down pit road now. He was actually the race leader and managed to stay ahead of Blaine Atkin and Ryan Lutz to remain on the lead lap prior to that caution coming out. So he will stay on the lead lap here, and Hank Steinmiller, who was the first car one lap down when the caution came out, he'll be the lucky dog. So 17 drivers will be on the lead lap when we go back green, with what will be less than 20 laps to go, somewhere in the vicinity, I believe, of 15 laps remaining.
If we were wondering if these guys could make it to the end of the race, that's all going out the window. Now we're going to see some battling. And I bet that Blaine Atkin is going to try the same move that he tried earlier and dive bomb into turn 3. That's where his car seems to be the strongest, is within turn 3. We've also seen him get some wicked restarts, so I think that if he can stay with Lutz, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a dive bomb even into turn 1 on the opening restart lap.
The thing of it is, too, we really haven't had a proper short run either. We had the long green flag run at the beginning, the long green flag run here prior to the 6th caution, and then we had, a couple of spurts of cautions that took place either 1 or 2 laps after restarts. So we really don't know who here inside of the top 5, even back through the top 10, who has the best short run car. For Lutz, we saw him work his way from the back to the front on a long run. Christopher Morse Jr. and Jeff Green, they've been able to work their way to the front on the long run. I almost kind of think you'd have to put the advantage to the 44 of Blaine Akin in terms of who might have the better short run car inside of the top 5.
Yeah, Akin has been known to keep his short run car extremely quick. A couple of drivers behind, though, that are hungry for it. Morse, Green, and Harrelson, you know that they want it. Green flag's going to come back out in the air. Look at the jump that Lutz got off of Akin. He's going to sail off into the lead of the race, and now Akin's going to have to play catch-up.
Yeah, I saw Akin there when he was in the race lead, dove to the inside off of 4. He did it again here while in 2nd place, trying to see if he can close up what's right now about 3 car lengths between himself and that 36. Behind them, though, caution's out, actually. It's Randy Koking, I do believe, in the 19, who has looped it around in turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, he has, I think, maybe soloed that. I think that was just by himself. That 19 machine is very damaged.
See what happened to him as he was back in the vicinity of Anthony Guarneri, as well as Bobby Germain, and wow. Yeah, I think this was a case of fresh tires going into that first corner. Neither the 16 nor the 19 found any grip there, and the both of them almost synchronized spin. Guarneri was able to save his race car. Randy Koking, not so lucky.
Yeah, Koking, both of them, that definitely looked like a Formula Drift event. They were both sideways through turn 1, but cold tires, fresh tires, and damaged race cars are a bad combo when you're trying to go too wide at speed into turn 1, and that carried over. They almost made it all the way through, and I think that maybe Koking could have saved that, but just too much damage on the car to really be at 100%. So a good save nonetheless to keep it off of the wall, though. He was able to keep it in the middle of the track, and thankfully no one was behind him to hit him.
With the configuration of Richmond, a lot of people call it a rhythm track. You have to get yourself into a rhythm, figure out where your braking points are going to be, and they constantly change the longer a run goes on. For some of these drivers, with going into that really long green flag run that we had moments ago, it may have settled into the comfort feeling of going into turn 1, those older tires. Then they go in on the slicks into turn 1, and it's an entirely different feeling.
Absolutely. If you have been settled in with a run and you know what your tires are going to do, then it's very easy to forget that once you get onto some cold tires that it's going to be a bit of a shock. You try to send it in, and you've almost got so much grip in some cases that you don't know what to do with it. So you might send it in a little bit too much, maybe turn the wheel a little bit sharper than you normally would, or forget that you don't have to save it as much when you come out of the turn, because we saw that Lutz was turning the car, spinning the wheel to the right quite a bit, trying to make it so that he didn't spin around. So when you have fresh tires, that suddenly might go away and you don't have to correct as much. So you might overcorrect and send your car up the track, and then you have to correct, go back down the track. So a lot of things you have to remember when you're on fresh tires, especially at a track such as Richmond, where you have to hit your marks lap after lap.
So we're still waiting on the pace cars' lights to go out. It looks like we will go back green, I think, with 11 laps to go. These drivers were all on pit road 7 laps ago, taking on another set of tires. So by my calculations, they've got one more set left for them. But with this being as close to the end of race as it is, I would have to speculate that at least for the guys up in the top 5, if not the top 10, that's the last time we're going to see them on pit lane.
Absolutely. I think that will be it for the top 5. There might be some drivers back there that might throw the dice on going down to pit road. You've got Jackson McLaren that might. You've got Kyle Johnson that certainly might do that. Cooper Johnson, maybe not. Maybe not. There's a few drivers that might. Although we do have some quote-unquote casinos in Richmond now, so throwing the dice might not be a bad idea for some of these guys.
So 17 drivers on the lead lap. 3 drivers are off the lead lap. Randy Koking, James Goshen, and Bobby Germain. Shane Lake and Bo Brady out of the race. And it's going to come down potentially to 11 laps to decide it. The two fastest cars of the race are P1 and P2. Ryan Lutz led the first 50 laps of this race. Blaine Akin has led all the rest up to this point, but Ryan Lutz and his team getting it done on pit road. He's going to lead us back to green flag once again. And now we're going to be closing in on that 10 lap to go marker here at Richmond.
Yeah, 11 laps to go at this moment. Look at Jeff Green to the inside of Harrelson, not wasting any time, trying to keep the fourth place spot. Oh, side by side, almost banging doors going out of turn 2, but still, side by side. Oh, Green sent it in, but I think he's going to hold on to it.
Yeah, he's been having some difficulty hooking the bottom through 3 and 4. Harrelson, I think, got up into the wall. And as we said, it just kind of hugs you in, and it lost him a lot of momentum, a lot of spots. He just dropped from 4th back to 8th place.
Now under fire from Cooper Johnson. He's still trying to stay out of the way, and now Johnson, I think, is going to get the jump on him now, although Harrelson seems to be strong on the outside.
He's going to hold court for the moment. Johnson to the inside, Harrelson to the top side. Jake Hounchow looking to see which lane is going to move. Meanwhile, ahead of them, Jeff Green, he's under fire from Kyle Johnson as he looks to put the pressure on the 3 of Christopher Morse Jr.
He is indeed. There is a big battle going on right now between those two, and you could throw Kyle Johnson and Jackson Mclaren into the mix. They're still hounding each other. Morse scampering away. Here comes Kyle Johnson on the inside of Green. Can he get the run to stick? I think that 88's the best on the inside. He's able to get the move done. Oh, a little bit of a spin. Oh, in the back and spun around.
Harrelson hard into the inside wall. No caution yet, and now it will fly as it was Cooper Johnson and Seth Harrelson that got together on the back straightaway, and just from a quick glance back there, looked like we may have had another possible netcode episode between those two.
Man, that was a lot of beating and banging. They were close together. I think, though, I think that one was contact.
We'll take a look at it here as these two were battling at the time for, I believe it was the 7th or 8th position, and yep, you're right. Definite contact between those two. Neither one of them looked like they were pointing the right direction coming off the second corner.
No, Harrelson was starting to slide coming out of turn 2, and then just unfortunately, Cooper Johnson was to his inside, and he just saw Johnson trying to desperately save it going down the back stretch. He almost had it, but he had gotten to a bit of a death wiggle and then sent him up the racetrack, although he didn't make that much contact with the outside wall, so he might have gotten away with that one. Although Seth Harrelson, not so much, as he pounded the inside wall.
Boy, I hesitate to say it, but might have been the commentator's curse. He was having a great run tonight, was Seth Harrelson, up inside the top 7 pretty much the entirety of this race, and this just kind of sums up his season too, and we saw this happen with him back in the Grand National Series as well. Great qualifying efforts, running up near the front when it counted, but then we get into the second half of the race and down to the closing restarts, and the luck factor just not in the camp of that 07 machine.
Not at all, and that's something that I don't think is out of his, or it's definitely out of his control. He can't, that was just, it was a freak accident. You can't predict when that's going to happen. He almost had it saved, and I think that if Johnson wasn't to his direct inside, he might have been able to save it, but still, just hard battling, trying to get every position you can late in the race, going for it, so tough break for Harrelson, but it's still early in the season. You can change your season and get it turned around. Plenty of time left, so I wouldn't let it beat it up too much, but still, tough break for both Johnson and Harrelson.
Now remember when Cooper Johnson won a couple of weeks ago at Daytona? That was during a green-white checkered finish. We do have one at our disposal here tonight if needed. Waiting to see when the lights go out. We are going to have less than 4 laps to go here in regulation when we go back green flag racing. And the thing I'm wondering here, I want to go all the way back to the contact for the race lead between Ryan Lutz and Blaine Akin. I don't know how, but I've talked to drivers at short tracks when they're the race leader on the final lap and asked them, did you have a strategy if that driver in second got to your back bumper and tried to rattle your cage? And they say, yes, I had a strategy in mind. I don't know how you strategize for something like that, but if that is the case here for Ryan Lutz, in the case of Blaine Akin getting into him and bump and running him for the race lead earlier on, has he already played his hand too soon? Does Ryan Lutz now know the playbook of Blaine Akin and have something to counter it?
I would think so. He's already had it happen to him once. You know, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So I think that Lutz is going to be looking in his rearview mirror, hoping, and well, not really hoping, but just waiting for it. At this point, he knows that Akin has got that in his playbook. He knows that he's going to try and do it, and I think that you're prepared for it more than you would be if it's just out of nowhere. That is a mistake on Blaine Atkins' part. He shouldn't have showed his hand so early on in the game, where now you've got the leader of the race, Lutz, who you did that to early in the race. He's now back in the lead of the race. He already knows what you're going to do. At the best, he might not do anything. At the worst, he might brake check you in the middle of the turn and slow all of your momentum down.
It might be all academic if Ryan Lutz can get himself a decent enough restart here, as it will be an in-regulation green-white checkered here. 2 laps to go at Richmond. We'll see if we're going to get back to the white flag or if we will go into overtime. Lutz going to pull away by about maybe 2-3 car lengths. That was a great restart.
That's what he needed. He needed to get away from the 44 as quick as possible, and he's done exactly that. This is a short lap, so if he can get around to the start-finish straight before the yellow comes out, if it does come out, then this will be in regulation. Going through turn 3 and 4 now, I think Atkins too far back to make a move.
He is going to get back to the start-finish line. No caution comes out. Ryan Lutz, second start of the season, looking for his first checkered flag, looking to go coast to coast at Richmond. They're battling back inside of the top 5 there with Jeff Green and Jackson Mclaren for the 5th spot, but it's clean sailing for Lutz through 3 and 4.
Coming out of 4, final time, Ryan Lutz, coast to coast, does it at Richmond with a sensational restart, getting away from Blaine Atkin, and that is perfection on the part of the 36.
You know, it's kind of ironic. We went into 2 long green flag runs. Lutz was the class of the first run, Atkin the class of the second run, but if you think about it, pit road was a deciding factor, with Ryan Lutz beating Blaine Atkin off of pit lane to exchange the lead, and never gave it up from that point on.
Absolutely not, and what a great job it was for him to come back from earlier on the race where he got sent to the back of the lead pack, fought his way up through the pack in that second long green flag run, and never, ever looked back, picking them off, and then got that late race caution that really got him back into the mix. And then, like you said, pit road, crucial for the 36, burning it down all the way out to Laburnum Avenue if he wanted to around this track.
I don't think he spun, but I think Jeff Green may have been sent up the track in 3 and 4. He was battling at the time for 5th place with Jackson Mclaren. He crosses the line in the 9th position, so tough break there for Green in the final couple corners. But Mclaren, a driver that we kind of looked at as a dark horse driver today, he's going to sneak out a top 5 behind Johnson, Morse, Atkin, and your race winner, Ryan Lutz.
That is a great run for Jackson Mclaren, considering that he was kind of mired as a mid-pack car all race long, and then got a lucky break, was able to get around a lot of these drivers who was in the top 3 quite a bit. You look back, you got Jared Campbell, who had struggles late in the race, and then John Weindorf, who felt like a rock outside of the top 5 and almost missed the top 10 by 2 positions. So just barely holding on to that. And James Roth gets a top 10. Look at that. What a good run for the 4 machine.
Roth spent most of the day just barely on the tail end of the lead lap, as he will finish in the final spot of the top 10. Behind them, Jason Hounchow, Anthony Guarneri, Bruce Pearson, Cooper Johnson. You know, you go down from 11th on back, these are drivers that pretty much struggled here today, with the possible exceptions of Hank Steinmiller and Seth Harrelson. They're back where they are because of damage they sustained, Steinmiller earlier on this race and Harrelson just a couple of laps ago.
Indeed so, but Michael Blanton, making his first start, comes out with a 16th position. Not too shabby for his first go-around, especially at a short track like this. James Goshen never really got his race started. He was struggling from the very get-go. Bobby Germain, another new driver to the series, was the slowest car on track, hand over fist, but still got out of everybody's way. He was a gracious backmarker. Valuable experience did Bobby Germain get this race. So if he's new to the 87 cars, then at least he was able to do it at this track and be able to really see what these cars are capable of.
Well, next week he's going to get to try it on the old surface of the D-shaped mile and a half of Atlanta Motor Speedway. So talk about trial by fire, if you will. And if we remember back to last season, these drivers had a lot of difficulty with grip when they went to that track in Georgia. But it's time to talk to some of our top 3 finishers. And let's kick things off as the number 3 finishes P3 here tonight with Christopher Morse Jr. Hey, Chris, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I got you guys.
And we saw that your car was actually really strong on the long run, cutting your way through the field up as high as 3rd place, but never really got an opportunity to see how good that car was on the short run. Do you think that maybe if we had been able to have 15, 20 laps here to finish out this race, you'd have had something for the 36 and 44?
Yeah, I think track position was key. If I wouldn't have been so far back at the beginning of probably the 2nd or 3rd restart there, I think I would have had a good shot to maybe be up there with Ryan and Blaine. But at the same time, I mean, we all know Blaine's on another level at this track. And Ryan, if you guys haven't seen Ryan race before, he's good. He's going to win a lot more. So, yeah, happy with the top 3, that's for sure. Finished 2nd here last season. Would like to have won, but nothing on the podium.
You know, on late race restarts, a lot of times the focus is on that 3rd place car because if the bump and run comes into play, there's no guarantee the top 2 are going to make it back to the start finish line. So did you have a strategy in place there on that final restart just in case those 2 got together?
Yes and no. I mean, on the one hand, I was definitely ready if they did make contact. On the other hand, to be honest with you, I've kind of struggled with these restarts, especially here on the short tracks, and I was more concerned with keeping Jeff and Kyle Johnson behind me than I was trying to pass those guys.
Now, we saw you have to cut your way through the field, and you did a fantastic job of it, getting a top 3 out of it. How hard is it to cut your way through the field at this track, and what do you need to do in order to do so? The low line, the high line, what's the strategy when you're passing cars trying to get back to the front of the field?
Well, I mean, for me, when I'm trying to come up through the field, I really try not to push the car too much. I try to find a nice, consistent pace and kind of just pick them off as they make mistakes. I mean, this car, especially here at the short tracks, it gives us such a great opportunity to race and beat and bang, and it's night and day compared to maybe the current A car, the B car, the truck. You've got so much more you can work with, and when the tires wear out, I mean I'm a lot better when the tires wear out than I am when we're on new tires. I'm sure people figured that out by now. So.
Chris, tremendous job by you here tonight. The consistency continues for you. Of course, we know that you're trying to defend your championship, and this will get you back up there closer to battle for that points lead heading into Atlanta, so congratulations on that. We're now going to give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yeah, man, I want to thank you guys for broadcasting again. I want to thank our new sponsor, Brave Rifle Sim Racing. You guys can go check them out at braverifle.com. Use the discount code GeForce to get a 30% discount code. I want to thank Zach Hansen, runs Hijinx Sim Racing, Hijinx Motorsports. Those guys have been with us now for pretty much the entire time, I believe. Yeah, 6, 7, 8 months now. So thanks to those guys, and thanks for everybody that watched. Hopefully, you guys, hopefully you enjoyed it.
That's Christopher Morse Jr. He puts that GM Goodwrench Chevrolet in P3 here tonight at Richmond. Congrats there, Chris. We look forward to seeing what you can bring to the table next week in Atlanta.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys. Y'all better get ready for next week because Atlanta is going to be fun. Y'all saw it last season. You know it's a banger of a race.
Absolutely. Let's see if we can now get the defender winner of this race a year ago, but tonight's runner-up, Blaine Atkin. Hey, Blaine, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Oh, yeah.
There we go. We got him. Blaine, you got us.
Yes, sir, I do.
Well, man, coming into tonight, no doubt about it, you were the favorite, the defending winner of this race. We saw you up front for a good portion of this one, but what little more did you need on that final restart to be able to get that 36?
I think I could have judged the restart a little bit better. I knew for sure he was going to go early, and I wasn't on my toes like I should have been.
You know, we saw the contact between the two of you in the battle for the race lead about 50 laps in. Just kind of wondering, what was the exchange between the two of you there? Because it seemed like it was a little early for a bump and run, but at the same time, we observed that your car seemed to rotate a lot better through the center of 3 and 4.
Yeah, truthfully, I wasn't trying to really bump and run him, but I knew I was probably close enough that I shouldn't have drove it in a little bit harder than what I should have, but it is what it is. He came back, won it, and he did a good job coming up through the field.
We saw earlier in the race that you and the 36 of Lutz made some contact, and that spun him around. I gotta ask, if you had gotten up to him, were you thinking about using that move again? The old bump and run, getting around and maybe getting the win out of that?
Well, you don't really know until you're in the moment, but I know anybody would have probably done it. I know I probably would have at the time too.
I got to ask you here, Blaine. You know, we were at Rockingham last week. A lot of people consider the way that track is approached in terms of a short track in some ways. Here tonight, Richmond, a short track. Now we're heading back to the speedways. Atlanta next on the list. So, with the momentum you've been able to pick up here at the short tracks, what's your thought process about the mile-and-a-half program now?
I'm probably going to struggle up to the mile and a half, but I've learned through the past couple of seasons in the ARCA and the 87s here, we got to conserve and make sure you got tires underneath it toward the end there.
Well, Blaine, great run for you here tonight. Started third, finished second here at Richmond. Your numbers at Richmond have been unbelievable here in the 2 seasons of the Vintage Cup Series, so congratulations on that. And we're now giving you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yeah, I want to thank Curb Appeal, SP Carburetors, Kentucky Clutch, and Smart Way. They all helped me out in real life, and I can't thank them enough.
That's Blaine Akin, P2 here tonight at Richmond. Congratulations there, Blaine. You'll be carrying the points lead into Atlanta. Best of luck.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And now let's see if we can go down to Victory Lane and talk with our winner, Ryan Lutz. Hey, Ryan, it's Anthony and Seth up here in the FRM booth. Got us?
Yeah, man.
Well, I was recounting to Anthony a race I remembered seeing you in here at Richmond. It was nighttime conditions, but you were able to make it almost 120 laps on fuel. You've done some remarkable things here at Richmond International, but here tonight with the type of car that this is and knowing just how difficult it is as far as handling, how did this compare to you in terms of other races you've done here at this short track?
Great point, Seth. Yeah, I know you called a bunch of races for me in Elite, and it's definitely cool to have you guys back for these G-Force. But I don't know, man. It was way different. The car was way difficult to drive. If you missed the corner by an inch, man, it was like on ice skates, and it was just skated up the track. So I don't know. I thought we had a really good car, and then we got spun there leading, and I was like, man, I think we're gonna run out of. We only had four sets of tires, I believe it was, and I was down to the last set of tires in that last run. So I was really, really worried about that. But I thought we had a good enough car, but I got hit in the back when I was running in the back and folded right from fender in, and man, it was tight after that. And we could get up to the 44, but we could never get a run enough under them. I think it was a little bit because of the right front damage, but we were just able to get a good pit stop there on that last pit stop and just control the race from there.
Yeah, no doubt that final pit stop was the deciding factor of this race, but I want to go back to that incident that happened about 50 laps in. You were out there in clean air after starting on the pole. You got spun around, got put back in traffic. How difficult is it as a driver to get yourself mentally focused to then have to figure out what your car's like back in traffic, passing race cars, and to do it not only methodically but patiently as well?
You got to pick your battles. You just got to be patient. Patience is big when you start back there, and everyone's trying to get what they can get, just like you. And I knew we had a really good car. I came in, I put 4 tires on. I think we started like 20th or whatever it was. And just pick them off one at a time. Just bite your time, wait for people to make mistakes in front of you. And if a hole opens, a hole opens. We had a really good car through 1 and 2. I could never get off 4 like the 44 could. He was really good off 4, but through 1 and 2, I was entering a little bit higher, which was helping my exit off. And, just really be patient, make sure you give enough room. Don't run over someone. Don't hurt your car coming back to the front. And that was definitely what was key for us tonight.
Speaking to the point of tires, we saw that late in the run that the tires really started to wear out. And to a point that you made earlier, it looked like they were on ice skates, and we saw you turning right more or less to go left a lot. Did the tires really play a factor late in the runs? And when you were chasing down the 44, were you waiting and biding your time, waiting until that last stop where you guys came down to get fresh tires, or were you running back there as more of a way to conserve your stuff for the end of the race?
Yeah, the beginning of that run, when I think it was second on that, when we started that long run, I knew he would go hard, and I let him go hard in the beginning. I let Gerald by I knew it was going to be a long run, and I knew we were going to have more tire than him at the end. And once Gerald started getting loose and he started burning up, we drove by him, and it was about I think it was like right at a second, lead to him. And every lap I would see that I was a little bit better, and I was like, all right, he's going to come back to us. And once I got to him, it was tough because it was like on ice skates, and you could never get enough run. And I kept thinking to myself, we had a shot. Like I would get to the back bumper of him, and it was like I would look at the laps, I'd be like, he's 30 to go, you can't move him. I didn't want to make any wrong mistake there. I was going to repay the favor because I wasn't going to wreck him, but I was definitely going to give him the bumper. But it was just too early in the race to do any of that nonsense. I just thought he must have missed his mark in the beginning and and cleaned us out. But it was a good rebound for sure, and definitely pumped up.
All right, so Ryan, obviously the classic point standings being used in this series, and it's still early on in the season, so this win is certainly going to propel you up there in the points. But you talked about how difficult it is to drive these race cars, and next week we're going to the old surface of Atlanta, so the momentum's on your side, but what's the mentality heading into the mile-and-a-half track?
I think we should be good. I like the wore-out racetracks like that, and these are my favorite cars. I love these cars, man. They're so much fun. I was really successful with them in Elite, and I'm a buddy of Hank Steinmiller, so he brought me on over here, and he was like, hey, there's a cool vintage league if you want to do it on Tuesday nights. And I was like, yeah, man, sign me up. So it was Atlanta's a tough one. There's definitely no grip at all. So you're definitely fighting the wheel, and you're definitely trying to get whatever you can without fencing it. The wall comes up quick off of 2 and 4 there, and just really, just like I always say, just fight your time, keep the fenders on, and keep the tires on you, and keep your track position, and you should be fine. And that's definitely our game plan going into next Tuesday.
Well, certainly not unfamiliar to see Ryan Let's burn it down here at Richmond. Congrats on the win there, Ryan. We're going to give you the opportunity now for some thank yous, some sponsors, and shout-outs.
Yeah, just you, Seth, everyone at G-Force. It's definitely fun tonight. Had a really good time. Damian Leininger came on board with Bad Flip Podcast, so he's always been a supporter of mine since the beginning. Chris Delbeck Racing with PFC Brakes, Hank Steinmiller with Country Road Motorsports. Just there's everyone that puts us on. It's definitely fun to come out here. My girlfriend always watches, so it's cool to have fans, family, friends, everyone watching. It's definitely a cool thing to do, and we'll roll into Atlanta with some momentum.
That's Ryan Lutz. He's your winner tonight in the Richmond 175 in his second start in the G-Force Vintage Cup Series. Congrats on the win there, Ryan. We look forward to seeing you carry this momentum into that old surface of Atlanta next week.
Thanks, boys. Should be fun.
And so as Ryan continues to celebrate in victory lane, Anthony, an interesting Richmond race here tonight. It kind of was a tale of two halves, if you will. Had that long green flag run to start, a little bit of cautions intermingled in between that and another long green flag run, which brought us up to a shootout, a 10-lap shootout, and then a green-white checkered.
Yeah, we saw a lot of green flag tonight, and these cars really produced some close racing. We saw a lot of close racing at the beginning of the race, and then it translated over to the end of the race. The tires didn't seem really to affect the close racing at all because it was just, slower lap times, but the cars were still being able to run side by side. And then, like you said, the last half of the race, that mad dash for the end of the race came down to a short run and then a inbounds green-white checker, which... those produce some of the closest races some of the closest finishes that we see. But the restart, the way that Ryan Lutz got that restart, was able to pull away from Akin and never look back. That is the key. And it all goes back to that pit road exit where Ryan Lutz was just able to get that little bit of an edge on Blaine Akin.
And I think the thing, too, here for Blaine Akin, a lot of pressure coming into this race, the defending winner. But I think he kind of came into this race maybe with a slightly different mentality than last season because he's the points leader. And the way that this system works out, there's no playoffs. It's whoever accumulates the most points at the end of the season wins the championship. So right now, he's definitely looking like a favorite to maybe topple Christopher Morse Jr. from going 2 for 2 and winning the championship here in the Vintage Cup Series. So, obviously, I know he wanted to win here tonight, but I don't think he's going to be disappointed with a second-place finish because that's the next maximum number of points you can get with not sitting in victory lane. That's going to help him extend that points lead.
Absolutely. Second place is certainly better than spinning your car around and finishing outside the top 10. So, having that second place, I know it's going to be gut-wrenching considering that he had a fast car and could have won this race if he had gotten up to Ryan Lutz, or even if he had kept Lutz behind him after that last stop. But again, second place is definitely going to have some momentum on his side. The guy that he's battling for the championship, Christopher Morse, the former champion, defending champion, finished third tonight. So you got a position above the defending champion, which sends a signal to Christopher Morse. Blaine Atkin is going to be a force that Morse is going to have to deal with all season long. And if Ryan Lutz makes a lot of starts this season, I wouldn't be surprised if we see that 36 up in the top running for the championship as well.
Yeah, who knows if Gerald Campbell last season had entered in maybe 2 or 3 races earlier than he did with the momentum and the wins that he had, he could have very well been a contender. So to your point, Ryan Lutz should be somebody, even though he missed a start already this season, if he's there regularly, he could end up making it a 3-man, even a 4-man fight. I think John Whitendorf's still going to be in the vicinity. I think Jake Hounchow still going to be in the vicinity. Still a lot of racing to go. And we continue it next week at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And, we talked with Ryan Lutz moments ago. He's looking forward to the old surface, but then when we talked with Blaine Atkin, he's a little bit more hesitant. I mean, when we talk about old surface, basically, folks, what that translates into, very little grip to be found. You've got to provide it yourself by laying rubber down the racetrack, and I can't imagine with how loose these race cars are going into a corner, doesn't matter what track it's at, when you've got minimal grip going into turn 1, that's got to be a scary feeling for these guys next week.
Absolutely. Knowing that you have very little in the way of grip, knowing that if you sail it into the turn any little bit wrong way, your car could snap around to you at any time. In the sports car world, we more or less attribute it to as the freshly paved surface at Daytona versus the very old and bumpy surface of Sebring. 2 completely different surfaces, and your car handles so much differently at those 2 tracks. That's kind of what we're going to see going into next week. We've been on the relatively new pavement of Richmond. It's been paved recently, so it's still old compared to other tracks. But when you go to Atlanta, where it hasn't been repaved, in the last 20 years or so, and especially in the Georgia sun, it gets baked on. There's multiple grooves. There's plenty of places that the asphalt is a little bit more broken up than we'd normally see at other tracks. And you got those little lines where they've put some tar in there that, if you get your wheels on it, there's a lot less grip there. But I'm excited for Atlanta.
So far, we've pulled a NASCAR Cup Series from 2021. 3 races, 3 different winners in Johnson, Atkin, and now add Ryan Lutz. Will we see a 4th different winner next week at Atlanta, or will we have our first multi-time winner? We're going to have to wait and see, but Ryan Lutz is your winner here tonight at Richmond International Raceway. Anthony, appreciate you joining me in the booth for this one. Been a good one.
It's always fun to call a race at the home track, and it's fun to call a race with you because I like this dynamic we got going on.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys that tuned in tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage. Next week, we are at Atlanta Motor Speedway for race number 4, the Georgia 200, 133 laps at the D-shaped 1.5-mile track. Green flag will be set to fly next Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For Anthony McCurry, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for tuning in here tonight to our coverage of the G-Force Vintage Cup Series as you've been watching another production of the Flatout Racing Network. We'll see you guys next week.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.